Representative, good to see you here.
Good to see you.
I want to start with something you said there a moment ago in the roundtable. You said Texas public schools won't survive 4 more years of Governor Abbott. Is that hyperbole?
No, it's not. In fact, it occurred to me when I was meeting with a former superintendent who was a Republican, and I asked him, will you support me publicly? And he said, of course, Gina. He said, you're our last best hope for public education. And when he said that, it kind of took me aback. And I thought about the awesome responsibility there is. But yes, I will say, what I have seen over the last 10 years is that it's just been cut after cut, attack after attack on our public schools. And I do not see our public schools surviving another 4 years under Greg Abbott. He doesn't support our public schools. He works against them. And I'm running to fight for our Texas public schools.
You're rolling out this new initiative in the campaign called Team Texas Public Schools. What's your plan?
Here is my plan. On day one, I will fire Mike Morath, the Texas Education Agency Commissioner, and appoint an educator to that position. Our kids deserve that much. I will also pause the A through F accountability system, which is currently rigged. I will tell you, I can go into detail into how it is rigged. It is focused on a very deficient STAR test, and we want accountability. Don't get me wrong. Those of us who support our public schools, we crave accountability, but we want a fair system.
But the legislature's been working on STAR and the A through F for years and can't get this figured out. And every time they have a new idea for it, that lasts for a few years before it's under criticism again. What's the idea? I mean, how do you guys get beyond this?
We all supported, except for one of us in the Texas House, an accountability system that would use an outside test. Right now, the Texas Education Agency makes the test, grades the test, decides after the fact. By the way, the test is given, and then the Texas Education Agency decides where to put the cutoff score, who's going to fail, who's going to lose, which is rigged in and of itself. It's moving the goalpost after the game has ended, and then decides consequences for our schools and our districts. That's a conflict of interest. They shouldn't be doing that. So the bill proposed an outside test that is used by other states so we can actually compare the performance of our kids to those in other states. So we get a real measure of achievement for our kids.
There's a lot of constant...
But let me say,
yeah,
I'm sorry, excuse me. That bill, it passed the House. Greg Abbott was against it, and it was killed.
So did it pass the Senate also?
I don't think it did.
Okay, gotcha. There's a lot of consternation across the state right now. People concerned and upset that schools are closing, not just in urban areas, but suburban areas and even rural areas. But if enrollment continues to fall in so many of these districts, Dallas ISD I'm thinking here, Plano ISD, is it responsible to keep these schools open?
I will say that a reason enrollment is falling, not the only reason, but a big reason is because parents are opting out because of the STAR test. It is because there are charter schools where those charter schools don't have to take all kids and they're opting into that resource. We keep growing our charter school network without any plan, without any end game, and it takes resources from our neighborhood public schools. So what we need to do is stabilize our neighborhood public schools, invest our money into them, because they are the single option available for every Texas child. We need to make sure they are the best.
Would you support raising taxes to increase school funding?
No, we don't need to. Our taxes have gone up 75% under Greg Abbott, yet schools are shutting down. We pay more, we get less. We're all paying the Greg Abbott corruption tax. What I mean by that is more and more of our money is going to vendors who are connected to the governor. We need to wipe clean the corrupt vendor contracts, use that money to invest into the classroom, to pay our teachers to be amongst the highest paid in the nation. I filed that bill last session. I had MAGA moms standing with me in support of this effort. It's what we all want, a back to basics approach.
But how much money is it going to cost to get these kids going to charter schools, get the kids in private schools, homeschooled, get them back into the neighborhood schools that so many of these districts invested in?
It's going to be an effort. I know how hard it is because we have fallen, and there's going to require work put into our schools so that parents can trust again that the public school is going to be the best option for their kids. Many parents who showed up today put in the work to make sure their kids get what they need, but it shouldn't be so hard. And the state has a responsibility, in fact, a Texas constitutional responsibility to fund an efficient system of public free schools. And right now the state is failing.
Let me ask you again about taxes. I don't have to tell you probably, but no one likes paying property taxes. They've exploded in the past 20 years in this state here. And half of what everyone pays goes to their local public school district. What is the answer then if people are continuing to pay more and more into their public schools, but schools are closing? It seems like that we should be getting a discount here.
Absolutely. What is happening is that money is not going into the classroom. A lot of that money, especially for the school districts that pay into Robin Hood or recapture, that money is going to Greg Abbott's other pet projects, not actually into our neighborhood public schools. A lot of people don't know that. We need to stop the nonsense, wipe clean those corrupt vendor contracts, again, and use that money to put it into the classroom. A back to basics approach just to pay teachers their worth, and not all this nonsense that is happening around in the name of public education that is not actually serving our kids.
Can the governor wipe clean these contracts?
Well, the governor can call on the legislature to do so, and I will say that I have a lot of colleagues who support this effort. They fear the governor. The governor, remember, came against Republican legislators and put money in against them in their own primary. A historic first when they would not support his voucher scam. They fear him. And so often they're not able to vote their districts, much less their conscience, because of this fear. Removing Greg Abbott creates freedom and space for us to come together in a bipartisan way to do right by our kids.
A couple last questions. Lieutenant Governor Patrick and all Republicans told me after the last session, listen, we set aside separate money for vouchers, $1 billion there for vouchers, and still gave public schools more than we have given in the past, including a pay raise for teachers. So are vouchers really taking away from public schools?
Absolutely. All that money is fungible. If you don't put it into neighborhood public schools, it's going into vouchers. Like, you can move money around. That money would have otherwise been available for our neighborhood public schools. Our neighborhood public schools got a little more money, but does not approach the inflation that they have experienced. And in fact, we need another about $10 billion into the classroom that we have lost because of inflation. The price of gas, the price of special education, I will tell you. My district I represent spends 25% of their entire budget on special education because the state has a $2.5 billion deficit. That is happening here in Richardson too.
Where does that extra $10 billion come from then?
Again, wiping clean the corrupt vendor contracts. Also, the Texas Education Agency has almost doubled in size under Greg Abbott. That is bureaucracy. That is not the priority. The money should be going into the classroom to pay teachers.
What else would you like to add or point out that we haven't asked about public education, about where you think it is here in this state in 10 years?
It is who we are as Texans. It is enshrined in our Texas Constitution. Texas public schools are Friday night lights. They are our shared experience as Texans. I am a product of Texas public schools. They are essential to the American dream. Our Texas public schools tell every single child you can be anything you want to be if you put in the work. We need to fight for and defend our Texas public schools.
Let me ask you this last thing. Governor Abbott would likely say something like, listen, we wouldn't be landing so many of these businesses from out of state, these big corporations, if it weren't for our public school system, lower taxes, etc. Is he right about that in some form?
Look, Governor Abbott has established that corporations love him. That is true. What happens too often is the corporations use our taxpayer dollars to move here and then hire people from elsewhere, not our own, because we need to invest more into Texans so they can take those good paying jobs. Right now, it is an investment into corporations and not the people of Texas.
Representative, good luck to you.
Thank you so much.